In a world filled with uncertainty, where every day can bring new challenges and unexpected dangers, the idea of safety becomes more than just a simple wish. It becomes a dream that shapes lives and decisions. For many, the search for a place to feel secure is a journey that defines their very existence. The longing for peace, for a life free from fear, is a universal hope that transcends borders and backgrounds. The promise of safety is a powerful beacon of hope, guiding people through the darkest of times. It is the light that families cling to when the world around them feels unstable, the force that keeps them moving forward even when the path is uncertain. For those who have lived through conflict, the idea of a safe haven is not just a distant dream, it is a necessity, a lifeline. For 23-year-old Iryna Zarutska, that beacon was America. She saw the United States as a land where she could finally breathe freely, where the constant threat of violence would be replaced by the promise of opportunity and peace. The stars and stripes represented not just a new country, but a new beginning, a place where she could build a future without fear. Iryna was a young woman whose spirit was forged in the fires of adversity. Growing up in Ukraine, she learned to be strong and resilient, forced to mature quickly as war erupted around her. The sounds of sirens and explosions became the backdrop of her youth, shaping her into someone who refused to give in to despair. Her life had been turned upside down, her days and nights spent in bomb shelters, huddled with others who shared the same fears. Each moment was a test of endurance as she waited for the world outside to become safe again. The uncertainty was relentless, and the hope for a better life grew stronger with every passing day. In those quiet moments, Iryna dreamed of a place where she could walk without fear, where the simple act of stepping outside would not be shadowed by anxiety. She imagined parks filled with laughter, streets where neighbors greeted each other with smiles, and nights where she could sleep peacefully, knowing she was safe. When Iryna finally arrived in America, she carried with her not only the weight of her past, but also a heart full of hope and aspirations for the future. Every step she took on this new soil was a testament to her courage and her belief in the possibility of a better life. She was determined to make the most of her new beginning, to find joy and purpose in a place she had only dreamed about. Her journey was a quiet inspiration, a story of someone who fled unimaginable danger to embrace a peaceful life. In the stillness of her new home, she reflected on all she had endured and all she hoped to achieve. Iryna's resilience was a silent strength, inspiring those around her to believe in the power of hope and the possibility of healing. But the safety she sought proved tragically elusive. In a cruel twist of fate, her journey toward peace ended in an act of senseless violence, a reminder that even in places of promise, safety can be fragile. Iryna's story is a heartbreaking testament to the dreams so many carry, and the urgent need to protect those who seek refuge from harm. The evening of August 22, 2025 began like any other in Charlotte. At 9:46 p.m., Iryna Zarutska boarded the Lynx Blue Line train. She was just another passenger, unaware her life was about to intersect with unimaginable violence. The train surveillance cameras captured the chilling events. A man, Decarlos Brown Jr., seated behind Iryna, suddenly stood up. Without warning, he lunged forward and stabbed Iryna multiple times in the neck. The other passengers reacted with panic and horror. Emergency services arrived, but Iryna was pronounced dead on the train. The news sent a shockwave of grief and disbelief through Charlotte and beyond. As Charlotte reeled from the attack, attention turned to the man responsible. Decarlos Brown Jr., 34, was not a stranger to the criminal justice system. His criminal record was extensive, with serious and violent crimes. Beyond his criminal record, Brown had a history of severe mental illness. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, his untreated condition added complexity to the tragedy. The killing of Iryna Zarutska was the catastrophic culmination of years of escalating problems. It left the public wondering how someone with such a history was free to commit such an act. Decarlos Brown Jr. OR's story is one of missed opportunities. In the months leading up to the attack, there were multiple instances where intervention could have altered his path. His mother sought an involuntary psychiatric commitment for him, reporting increasing violence. The legal system recognized his instability, but its response was slow. A court-ordered psychological exam was requested, but never completed. This gap represents a catastrophic failure in timing and execution. While the system identified the problem, it failed to act with urgency. A predictable risk festered until it exploded into irreversible violence. In the immediate aftermath of Iryna Zarutska's tragic murder, law enforcement agencies moved quickly, determined to bring the perpetrator to justice. The community was still reeling from the shock, but authorities wasted no time in launching a comprehensive investigation. Within hours, police had cordoned off the area, collected evidence, and begun interviewing witnesses, signaling the seriousness with which they approached the case. Local prosecutors, working closely with law enforcement, swiftly brought charges against Decarlos Brown Jr. He was formally accused of first-degree murder, a charge reserved for the most serious and premeditated acts of violence. The announcement was made at a press conference, where officials emphasized their commitment to seeking justice for Iryna and her family. First-degree murder is among the gravest charges in the legal system. If convicted, Brown faces the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars, or even receiving the death penalty. The severity of the charge reflects the calculated nature of the crime and the devastating impact it had on the community. But the legal response did not end at the state level. On September 9th, the U.S. Department of Justice stepped in, filing a federal charge against Brown. This move underscored the case's significance and the broader implications for public safety. The federal charge was brought under a specific statute that makes it a crime to cause death on a mass transportation system. This law is designed to protect the millions of people who rely on public transit every day, and its application in this case highlights the seriousness of the offense. Like the state charge, the federal indictment carries the potential for the harshest penalties available under the law: life imprisonment or even the death penalty. The dual charges mean Brown will face justice in both state and federal courts, with each system seeking accountability for the crime. Attorney General Pam Bondi made it clear in a public statement that the government intends to pursue the maximum penalty allowed by law. Her words echoed the determination of both state and federal authorities to ensure that justice is served, and that such acts of violence are met with the full force of the legal system. The decision to prosecute Brown on both state and federal levels is not just a legal strategy. It's a message. It demonstrates a commitment to exhausting every legal avenue to secure a conviction and to send a clear warning that crimes of this magnitude will not be tolerated. The combined weight of these parallel prosecutions reflects not only the profound loss suffered by Iryna's loved ones, but also the widespread public outrage and demand for accountability. The legal proceedings ahead will be closely watched as the community seeks closure and justice in the wake of this heartbreaking tragedy. The tragic death of Iryna Zarutska ignited a fierce national debate. Her murder became a flashpoint for discussions on violent crime and mental health. Figures within the MAGA movement used the incident to criticize liberal governance. Charlotte's mayor, Vi Lyles, criticized the judicial process for quick releases. The narrative was amplified across conservative media, framing it as a cautionary tale. The tragedy became a political weapon, overshadowing the need for practical solutions. Iryna Zarutska's murder sent a wave of grief and anger through Charlotte. The attack shattered the sense of security for Lynx light rail commuters. Community forums were flooded with expressions of sorrow and outrage. A GoFundMe campaign was established to support Iryna's family. Donations poured in, raising over $38,000. The public outcry placed pressure on city officials to act. Residents demanded to know how this was allowed to happen. The community's voice was unified, demanding action and accountability. In the aftermath of Iryna's murder, Charlotte officials scrambled to respond. Security personnel presence increased across transit lines. The city hired a new chief safety officer to overhaul safety protocols. Charlotte tripled the safety budget for its transit system. The message was clear: the old way of doing things was unacceptable. North Carolina's state auditor announced a comprehensive audit of the transit system. The audit aims to assess vulnerabilities and ensure taxpayer money is used effectively. The combination of increased funding and new leadership represents a strategy to rebuild the system. Iryna Zarutska's story is not just a personal tragedy, but a mirror reflecting the complex and urgent challenges that American cities like Charlotte face today. Her life and her untimely death force us to confront uncomfortable truths about the systems we rely on to keep our communities safe and healthy. In many ways, her story is emblematic of the struggles that ripple through urban America, where rapid growth, economic inequality, and social fragmentation often collide. The loss of Iryna compels us to have difficult conversations about the ways in which our society sometimes fails its most vulnerable members. Her death is not an isolated incident, but part of a larger pattern that demands our attention and action. It raises questions about how we care for those struggling with mental illness, how we support families in crisis, and how we respond to warning signs before tragedy strikes. This tragedy exposes the complicated intersection of mental health care, the justice system, and public safety. It highlights the reality that these systems often operate in silos, failing to communicate or collaborate effectively. When mental health crises are treated solely as criminal issues, or when law enforcement is left as the only line of response, the results can be devastating for individuals and communities alike. The case of Decarlos Brown Jr. is a stark reminder of what happens when the social safety net unravels. It shows us the consequences of underfunded programs, overburdened social workers, and a lack of accessible mental health care. Too often, people in crisis fall through the cracks with nowhere to turn and no one to help. Our current systems for addressing mental health emergencies are stretched to the breaking point. Clinics are overcrowded, resources are scarce, and the professionals on the front lines are overwhelmed. This leaves families and individuals without the support they desperately need, and it puts entire communities at risk. The events surrounding Iryna's death force us to re-examine what public safety truly means in our urban environments. Is it enough to simply increase policing, or do we need to rethink our approach entirely? True safety is not just about reacting to crime, but about preventing it by addressing its root causes. Real safety requires a holistic approach, one that brings together law enforcement, mental health professionals, social services, and the community itself. It means investing in prevention, supporting those at risk, and building trust between neighbors and institutions. Only by working together can we hope to create lasting change. Iryna's death is a call to action. It demands that we move beyond political rhetoric and find real, workable solutions that address the underlying issues. We must listen to those most affected, empower local leaders, and commit to making our cities places where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Let Iryna's memory inspire us to build communities where every person can live without fear, where support is available to those in need, and where hope is stronger than despair. The future of our cities depends on the choices we make today.